Chapter 71 Culprit Arrested. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Normal release chapter, Sunday, October 18, Sakura City, West Martin Street, 39. Peter Green was enjoying his Sunday to take a rest from work. Last days with the whole trip to Elffire City to poach the Naruto's mangaka, he was exhausted. Especially after the roller coaster of emotions after Sayuri threatened him with corporation espionage, and his subsequent act of threatening Theo to join his publishing house. Peter was reading a book on the balcony of his apartment while enjoying the view of the apartment. It could be seen a park nearby and the high sky buildings far away. This apartment was costly just by the view. As the editor-manager of the Fury Jump, he could afford such a place. Suddenly, Peter heard the doorbell ringing. He was confused. He was not expecting visitors. He looked at the clock. 1:32 p.m., who would visit unannounced just after lunch hour of a Sunday? Peter wondered as he walked towards the door to answer it. Peter opened the door and became even more confused. 2 police officers were at his doorstep. Mr. Peter Green, one of the officers said with a serious tone of voice. "Beto dem, yeah, how can I help you, officers?" Peter asked warily. "You are under arrest," the officer signalized to the second officer to handcuff Peter. "What? Why?" Peter turned pale, as he asked while the officer handcuffed his hands. "We have a warrant for your arrest in your name emitted by the Elffire City Department of Police by the crimes of making threat to kill and attempt murder." Peter started sweating a cold sweat as he heard where this arrest warrant was coming from. How did they find out? Those Batar *** must have sold me out. Peter gritted his teeth in anger as he was guided towards the police car. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you," the officer told Peter his rights as they walked. Peter was crestfallen. All he wanted to do was save the company he worked for his whole life. But now he was going to jail. Similar scenes were happening with George and Josh. But they were only being charged by being accomplices and facilitation. Their charges were lighter compared with Peter's. But still, both were terrified. They regretted not saying anything when Peter started with his plan to threaten Theo. The 3 of them were conducted directly to the airport, where they would be transported to Elffire City. The Sakura City Department of Police would only make the arrests, but they would leave everything else to ECPD, Elffire City Police Department. At the end of the afternoon, the 3 men arrived at Elffire City for the second time in 1 week. But this time their arrival was multiple times more miserable. They arrived as prisoners while being charged with multiple crimes. The 3 of them were conducted to the police station that was taking care of the case. And it was the same police station where Theo gave his testimony, and where Hammer and his goons were detained. The police took great care while transporting them, to not let them talk with each other. They did not want Peter to coerce the other 2 to not talk with the officers. "Mr. George Takeda, right?" asked Detective Alto, as George seated with a nervous face in the interrogation room. Detectives Alto and Mikoto were again interrogating. "Yes, sir." George replied nervously. "It says here that you are just normal editor of a publishing house from Sakura City." Detective Alto said as he looked at the document that was in front of him. "Yeah, I am just an editor, sir." George replied as he gulped. "Now, would you tell me how a simple editor is facing multiple charges, including facilitating an attempt to murder?" Detective Mikoto asked with a fierce tone of voice. Sir." George could not even articulate a word. "Now, let's calm down." Detective Alto smiled at George. He calmed a little when he saw Detective Alto smiling. "Now, why don't you tell us what happened from the very beginning?" Detective Alto asked, still smiling. George hesitated. He did not know if it was wise to tell the whole story. "Mr. Takeda, you must think well about what you're going to say. If you don't tell us what happened, your charges may go from accomplice to perpetrator. And the sentence to this crime is much harsher. Detective Alto said with a chilly tone of voice. George gulped down a mouthful of saliva. He was having cold sweat as he decided to tell the truth. Well, it all started when my boss decided to come to Elfire City to poach an author from a local publishing house. George then proceeded to tell how Peter was the real perpetrator of everything. He even told them how they committed corporation espionage. That came as a surprise to the detectives. The water was deeper than they imagined. George finished his statement telling them that the bandits would contact them when the job was done. The statement was so complete that the detectives only had to ask a few questions to clarify some points. Detectives Alto and Mikoto asked an officer to guide George back to the holding cell and bring John to take a statement too. John's statement was basically the same as George's. John was even more frightened. He was only an intern editor. He regretted applying for an internship at the Fury Jump. He was so afraid during the interrogation that he provided evidence of all the things Peter ordered him and George to do while in Elfire City. Detectives Alto and Mikoto were pleasantly surprised as they got evidence to corroborate their case. Now, there was Peter left to interrogate. But even if they did not interrogate Peter, they had all the evidence necessary to charge Peter with multiple crimes and sentence him to a lifetime in jail. Mr. Peter Green, right? Detective Alto asked as Peter was seated in front of the detectives in the interrogation room. Different from George and John, Peter was calm. He calmed himself while he was being transported over. Peter wanted to deny everything. He thought that they did not have evidence. He did not think that his subordinates were already arrested, and already told the police of everything that he did. Yes, it's me. Peter replied calmly. The detectives were a little surprised by his attitude, but they did not think much of it. It says here you are the editor-manager of a publishing house from Sakura City, right? Detective Alto asked. Yes, that's right. Peter replied. Could you tell us why you came to Elfire City last week? Detective Alto asked. I wanted to poach a mangaka into the company I work for. But I was not successful. Peter replied. So, that was why you tried threatening him? Detective Mikoto asked suddenly. Peter was taken aback by the sudden direct question. I did not do that. Peter said as he denied the accusation. So, after the author refused to go with you, you left Elfire City without doing anything? Detective Alto asked with an amused smile. Peter turned a little nervous when he saw the detective's amused smile. That's right. Peter answered. Alto, that's funny, don't you think? Detective Mikoto said that, but his face was serious as ever. Yeah, I think so too. Detective Alto said with his amused smile. Peter gulped down anxiously. Do they have any proof? Peter thought. Mr. Green, you said you did not do anything. But why do we have multiple evidence that proves that you contacted gang members to threaten Mr. Gray? We have statements from your employees George and John also saying that you did that. Detective Mikoto snorted with a cold voice. Peter turned pale the more he heard what the detective talked. I am doomed. Peter's confidence and calmness broke at that moment. Would you like to tell us the truth? Detective Alto said again. Peter had a dead expression when he replied. I would like to ask for my lawyer. It was all that Peter managed to say. He knew he was the principal perpetrator of the crime, and the more he talked, the more his situation would worsen. The lawyer would not help much him, but at least it would not worsen. The detectives nodded and asked for an officer to take Peter back to the holding cell. They could not ask more questions to the suspect after he asked for his lawyer. But they did not expect a confession either. They had all the evidence necessary to convict Peter. Author notice. Guys, thank you so much for your support. You guys managed to unlock 4 extra chapters this week. I'm very happy and grateful for you all reading and supporting my novel. It means a lot to me. And if you want to read more chapters, give even more power stones that I will keep this reward system. Next week I will release even more extra chapter if you guys manage to hit the target. Thank you again. Chapter 72 Elf-Fire Cities Autumn. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Elf-Fire City, Bluecorn State, Sakura Abode Country. Monday, October 19th. The day had all the characteristics that made the autumn season to be loved and hated by the people. In this season was possible to see why this country was called Sakura Abode Country. Sakura's trees could be seen all over the country, and the most unique thing was that each region had Sakura's trees blooming with colors of each region. Elf-Fire City seemed that was touched by the fire as its name suggests. Red vibrant trees could be seen all over the city, that seemed that the city was perpetually being burned. During the day, the sunlight, which was starting to weaken with proximity to the winter, shined upon the leaves making the trees look like fire trees. And during the night, the city lights shined upon the flame leaves and made the city look like a magical city. While the rest of the state had a characteristic blue sakura tree blooming so beautifully that seemed that blue unicorns were dancing on its leaves. That was how the state acquired its name. While the city gained its name after an old legend was heard by the ones who established the city. BDNV It was said that once upon a time, an elf was not satisfied with the look of his forest when the autumn arrived. Everything was so blue with blue magical creatures. The elf liked vibrant colors, as he was a fire elf. One day the autumn arrived again, he could not hold back anymore and spoke grumpily, "Fire is the start. I will make a fire here in this forest once again so I can calm down my heart," he rhymed and sang while pulling a huge chunk of the forest in a fire that reached the heavens. But strangely, not even one tree was burning, but all the trees that were reached by the fire acquired flame leaves on every autumn starting that year. The elf satisfied with her work slept in the sea of flame autumn leaves. It was in this beautiful city, inside a commercial building, that a young man with a god-like figure, silver hair, and mesmerizing, brilliant silver eyes, was drawing something on his computer. He seemed fully focused on the task at hand. No, it is not going to work. But what if I put the solar power grid separated from the house? It is going to free the roof of the house for something more interesting. Theo thought as he looked at the project that he was designing on his computer. As he expected, he was able to advance, yesterday, his skill and proficiencies to an acceptable level, so that he would be able to project his house. Even with his enhanced intelligence, it would take some time for him to design and project the house. Especially the house he was thinking of. The project had all sorts of little things that took a long time to complete. But he estimated that in 10 days he would finish. That was an amazing speed. Architects and engineers usually spent months completing the design of a house of the size that Theo was projecting. Suddenly, his phone rang. Theo looked at the display, but it was from an unknown number. He made a confused expression. His number was only known by a few numbers of people. So, it was rare for him to receive a call from an unknown number. Hello. Theo answered the phone, nonetheless. Mr. Gray. This is the police Captain Allen of 45th Police Station. A voice with overpowering confidence resounded over the phone. Oh, it's Captain Allen. How can I help you? Theo smiled as he remembered the old man who freed him from the rude detectives. Mr. Gray, we were able to discover who was the perpetrator of your attack. We managed to discover. Captain Allen proceeded to tell Theo how one of the men who had a meeting with him and Sayuri last Thursday, contacted some gang members to threaten him to sign with his company. Theo's gaze became sharp, he narrowed his eyes furiously. Sayuri let those men go to not attract bad attention from the media to the Fuji jump. But one of them dared to order an attack on him. Theo was furious. Now, what? Theo said after the captain finished his story. You don't have to worry about the prosecution, Mr. Gray. But I would like to recommend you press charges against the Fury jump with the allegations of corporate espionage. Captain Allen replied. I will contact the legal department of my company to press the charges. Theo said with a firm tone of voice. Tell them to come here, and we will take care of everything, the captain said again. Thank you. Theo was grateful for all his help, even if it was because of Aia's family connections. Theo hung up the phone after talking with the captain about some details of the case. Theo searched for Sayuri's number on his phone and called her. Hey, boss, what's up? Sayuri said with a joyful tone. She was indeed happy. She received the sales report of the Hataraku Mao-sama manga. And it was another success. Not at the level of Naruto's, but she could see that the Hataraku Mao-sama manga would become famous around the country too. All the bookstores that were suspicious about the manga became avid to order the manga on their own volition. We have a problem. Theo said curtly. Sayuri noticed that Theo was unusually serious. Tell me. Sayuri said as she became serious too. Theo proceeded to tell her everything that happened, and what the police discovered. Those at $% at ##***, Sayuri cursed so much that Theo became a little shy. He did not. The woman, who looked like a little princess, could curse so much. Are you okay? She asked in worry after she managed to vent her feelings by some cursing. Yes, don't worry. Theo said with a chuckle. Thank goodness. Sayuri sighed in relief. What do you want me to do? Sayuri asked. She knew that Theo would know what to do. I want you to notify the Fuji's lawyer and press the Fury jump with corporation espionage. Put all the evidence you managed to gather. Theo said with a cold voice. Sure, it will be done as soon as possible. And what about the other companies? Sayuri asked. Let them be, let the Fury jump be an example to them. Theo said with an evil laugh. Sayuri replied with a burst of equally evil laughter. The two combined how they could sink their enemy for a while longer. How were the sales last week? Theo asked afterward. It was promising, boss. Meaning it was another success. Sayuri exclaimed with a happy laugh. Really? The Hataraku Mao-sama manga was successful? Theo asked with an excited tone of voice. It sure was. We have already received orders from all around the country. The Naruto manga also managed to reach the peak of sales. We project that the sales will stabilize at this number though. Sayuri reported. That's great. We are going in the right direction. Theo replied with a satisfied smile. What about the Sword Art Online light novel? Is it already in the bookstores? Theo asked. Yes, the bookstores that became our partners accepted to order our novel and promote in the stores. They seemed eager to order the copies after 2 of our novels sold so well in their stores. Sayuri laughed. You did an amazing job. Theo complimented her. He didn't know what he would do without her overseeing the company. Now, the light novel is released. Would Ryoko-san be able to meet my expectations with her script and storyboard? Theo thought as he remembered the blue-haired beauty with eyes eager to make her dreams come true. Chapter 73 Restaurant changed the working days. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Theo arrived at the restaurant that day with his usual casual style. The employees were starting to arrive to prepare for the night service. Theo arrived at the kitchen and saw that only Kimiko arrived. Hey, Kimiko. Theo greeted her, as he looked at the green-haired beauty. Hey, boss. Kimiko smiled at her boss. Theo went to the dressing room to put on his uniform. While he was dressing his uniform, the rest of the kitchen started to arrive and put on their uniform too. Theo came back to the kitchen as the rest of the cooks arrived too. I see everyone's here, Theo smiled. Good evening, guys. Theo greeted everyone. Good evening, chef, all of them replied with a smile. Theo, I want to talk with you before the service starts. Aiya said with a nervous smile. She was a little nervous as she saw Theo today after he hugged her last Friday night. Sure. Theo replied with a smile. Now let's cook. Theo asked with enthusiasm. The cook started to cook all the ingredients that needed to be cooked before the service started. Today the new cooks have already become fully used with rhythm and pace inside the kitchen. Theo was satisfied when they finished all the preparations 30 minutes before the service started. Guys, let's go to the salon. I have something to tell everyone. Theo said as motioned them to follow him. They went to the salon, while Theo went towards June. June, can you gather everyone by the stairs? Theo asked her as he entered her office. Sure, boss, in 5 minutes they will be there. June replied as she stood up. And like she said, 5 minutes later all the employees of the Spark restaurant were gathered at the stairs. They were all curious about what their boss wanted to say. Guys, it has been a month since we opened, and I cannot express how much I appreciate all your help. Theo said with a brilliant smile. All of them could feel that Theo truly felt grateful. Their hearts had warmth feeling up over them as they heard that. I noticed that working every day of the week and month was becoming too taxing for all of us. So, I decided to establish a rest day for all the staff. When the restaurant will be closed to service. Also, I decided to hire more employees to establish a rotative schedule. These new employees are going to work only 1 day of the week, with the intention to give you all 2 days of rest per week. With the kitchen staff, I will hire 2 more cooks to do the same rotative job schedule. Oh, and you don't have to worry about your pay. It will stay the same. Theo smiled as he saw that some of them sighing in relief. All of them became excited when they heard that. They loved working at the restaurant, but sometimes they wanted to just relax or go out to party. Theo observed their excited faces and nodded at himself. Initially, he wanted to close the restaurant for 2 days per week, but he thought that he would impact the clients and his profit. So, he decided to adopt the rotative schedule. He and Aia would take of the kitchen. The day it was his turn to rest on the schedule, Aia would be the head chef of the service that night. And obviously, when Aia rested, he would come as the head chef with the help of Shizuka, as his temporary secondary chef. Wednesday, the day after tomorrow, is our first rest day. But starting next week, every Monday will be our rest day. And concerning the rotative schedule, June still is going to hire the new employees. But she already said that starting next month, the system will be ready. Theo completed his announcements with a smile. Tomorrow was the last day of his month-long mission to have an approval of 90% with clients. He wanted to rest for a day after having this exhausting month. The employees cheered when they heard that they would have the day off already on the day after tomorrow. Thank you, boss, one of them shouted. Yeah, boss, I love you, a girl's voice shouted too. I want to have your babies, another girl's voice shouted. Theo only laughed seeing his employees goofing around. They went back to do their jobs with happy faces. Theo went to the side where Aia and Shizuka were. Hey, did you want to talk with me? Theo asked Aia as he arrived beside her. Yeah, I heard that the police found who was responsible for your attack. Aia asked as looked at Theo. After cooking with him for the night service, she became her lively self again. Oh yeah, they did. They said they will take care of everything, but they recommended me to press charges against the perpetrator's company with corporation espionage. Theo replied. He was not much surprised to know that these 2 girls had access to classified police information. I have an idea, but I don't know if you will agree with it. Aia said with an anxious voice. I have some contacts with newspapers from Sakura City. I wanted to leak the news of a publishing house committing corporation espionage and of its employees attempting to threaten an author. Aia said. Theo's eyes lit up as he heard that. He was looking for a way to completely destroy the Fury Company, but Aia presented the perfect way for him. If they played the right way, all prestige and respect that the Fury Jump had would be stripped away. You are genius. Theo as he took hold of her shoulders. Aiya became red as a tomato instantly. No, I had Shizu.chan help to come up with this plan. Aiya managed to say with a trembling voice. I only helped a little bit. It was mainly Aiya.chan. Shizuka came to the rescue of her sister after she saw how Aiya was about to lose control. Well, I guess you two are my guardian angels then. Thank you, girls. Theo smiled at the two of them. Aiya and Shizuka became a little absent minded at the sight of his smile. Shizuka did not have any feelings for her sister's crush, but she had to admit that Theo was the most handsome man she had ever seen. Aiya gathered all her self-control to not jump and kiss Theo or run out of the room in embarrassment. She wanted to do both things. Theo let go of her and they started talking about how to make this leak perfect. Aiya calmed herself as she kept talking. They only stopped when the service started. The clients were once again satisfied with the great food and ambient of the Spark restaurant. The employees became even more joyful during work, as they were looking forward to their day off. Theo took money from his profit to take care of the changes in the restaurant. Even though his profit would decrease, he did not care much about it. He wanted to have a restaurant where all employees had the pleasure to work at. And he wanted his employees to pass this feeling when working at the restaurant. The food can be super delicious, but if the service is awful, the view that the clients have on his restaurant will be affected negatively. Theo knew that to have a star restaurant, food was not the only thing that mattered. It was important to have an excellent service from the greeter to the waiter, a clean environment, beautiful decorations, and more. Theo had all that, he only needed to secure that the service from the waiters and greeters was excellent. And with this new system that he established, he wanted to secure the last thing to have a star restaurant. The mission ends tomorrow. What new missions the system will issue? Theo thought as the service ended that night. Chapter 74 Mission completed and new missions. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day was marked by the Fuji Jump's lawyer going to the police station where Captain Allen oversaw. The lawyer pressed charges against the Fury Jump publishing house with the allegations of corporate espionage. Captain Allen proceeded to roll the accusations with fast speed. He wanted to build a case to tie with Peter's crime. When he saw all the evidence that Sayuri collected, he knew that any judge would sentence Peter and the Fury Jump as guilty. With the help from the Commissioner of Police, the case was handled at maximum speed. Meanwhile, in the headquarters of the Fury Jump publishing house, at Sakura City, Peter's boss just received a call and was frowning hard. Peter just used his call time to notify him of what he did. He just came to know the whole situation with Peter at Elffire City. He had to avoid the news of what his employee did at Elffire City to reach the media. If the media got to know, his company would be in an even deeper crisis. He heaved a sigh of relief. After a while he imagined the news would not leak. The happenings were in a different city, and it would be hard for the media to get to know about it. He couldn't be more wrong about it, because at that right moment a newspaper journalist of Sakura City was writing furiously about the case involving Peter and the Fury Jump. Tomorrow, everyone who bought, or saw the news online, the newspaper would know what happened. Today was October 20th, and it was the day that Theo completed the mission of the system to have more than 90% of the clients' approval in his restaurant. At the night service, the whole staff was looking forward to tomorrow's day off. And Theo was looking forward to completing his mission. This mission was one of the longest times to complete. But Theo was satisfied with this mission. He had the possibility to enhance his restaurant service with this mission. After the service ended that night, Theo heard several sounds inside his head. But he ignored it, he wanted to see it when he was in his apartment. Tomorrow we don't work. Aiya shouted with excitement when they stopped cooking. Yay, Shoko also exclaimed. All of them enjoyed working and cooking at the restaurant, but sometimes they also wanted to have a day to relax. So, it was understandable that they wanted a day off. How about we go out tomorrow? Aiya asked them when they were going out of the restaurant. Aurora, June, Theo, and Shizuka were heading towards their cars when they heard Aiya saying that. That would be great. Good idea, big sister Aiya. Aurora exclaimed with an exciting sweet voice. Sure, if Aurora wants, I want it too. Theo smiled. June also agreed with a smile. Meanwhile, Shizuka just nodded in an agreement. How about we go to the movie theater? Theo asked. Yes. We can invite Sayuri and Sam to go with us. Aiya said as she jumped around in excitement. All of them agreed on going to watch a movie together. I heard that a great movie is on screen. June said. Yeah, I heard it too. It seems to be a thriller movie. Shizuka said. Then that's decided. I can book the seats for us. Theo said as they arrived at the parking lot. Yay, Aiya exclaimed. They combined to meet at the movie theater tomorrow, and afterward, they said goodbye to each other. Theo just had a shower and got on his bed when he said in his mind. System, show me the notifications, ding. Congratulations. You completed the mission, client satisfied, calculating grade, ding. Mission completed. 99% of approval grade. Issuing extra rewards, you received $2 million in your bank account, you received 2000 XP, you received 1 lucky draw ticket, ding. Missions are being generated, ding. New mission. Anime is the way, description. You have chosen to dwell in the anime business. And if you want to do it, you have to be great at it. Requirements. Establish an animation studio, launch an anime. Rewards. $5 million, 2000 EXP, 1 Studio Ghibli movie of your choice. Ding. New mission. I want to be an artist. Description. In your new life you have chosen to focus on the entertainment industry. But the music industry is one of the most important in entertainment. You should consider bringing new and great songs into this world. Requirements. Launch 1 music album. Rewards. $1 million, 1000 EXP. Theo was a little overwhelmed with the amount of information that these notifications held. Let me see. First, I was able to get an S grade on the mission of the restaurant. I received double rewards and even a lucky draw ticket. Second, I received my next 2 missions. And they seem to be a little difficult. At least, they will take time to be completed. The first mission is related to anime. I will establish a studio and launch an anime even without the mission. It is great that I will get some rewards from the system by doing what I was already doing. Meanwhile, the second mission is the most interesting one. I never thought about having a musical career. But that's because I did not have any talent in it. I should use the singing proficiency I received to recreate my favorite songs from my past life and launch in this world. I observed that the musical industry in this world is as developed as my last world. But the songs launched are different. Theo was deep in thought as he remembered songs from his past life. But I cannot focus on this mission right now, Theo said after some time. I have to finish projecting my house. Afterward, I have to start the anime project. And I even have to complete the bonus mission of creating a light novel. Because I will need the reward of this bonus mission to launch my anime. He needed the musical proficiency that was in the reward of the bonus mission, to produce the soundtrack of the anime. An anime with a great soundtrack is the first step to success. So, Theo decided to let the mission of launching a music album finish after he finished the bonus mission. Theo had many things to do, but he was happy with the way he was living. He found joy working with what he loved. The house project is going to be done by next week. Should I put a music studio in the house? I can produce my songs and upload them into track directly without having to contact a recording studio. This world had an app that all the songs were uploaded in it, just like the Spotify app from Theo's past life. The difference was that the track app was even better. The track app was available in all countries of the world, and it was the most used music app in the world. The app had an amazing system that supported the artists and prevented plagiarism and stealing of content. The app's founder was from Sakura Abode country. Even though an app from the Bald Eagle country tried to compete with the track, they failed in the end. The track had a music awards that was considered the most important in the industry. It was comparable to the Grammy Awards from Theo's past life. But it was still necessary to contract a recording company if someone wanted to launch a music album. Theo wanted to build a recording studio in his house so that he could record his album and bypass the necessity of contracting a recording studio. He imagined which songs he wanted to release as he drifted away into sleep. Chapter 75 Journals article. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, October 21st, Wednesday. Theo woke up early, as usual, to go spar with Akihiro. Afterward, he cooked Aurora's breakfast and lunch. "Brother, did you buy the tickets for the movie already?" Aurora asked as they had breakfast together. "Not yet, why?" Theo replied as he sipped his coffee. "Can I call my friends to go with us?" Aurora asked nervously. She loved her big sisters, but all of them talked about things that she could not understand sometimes. She assumed it was because she was younger than the others. So, she wanted to take her friends to enjoy the movie too. "Sure, the more the merrier," Theo said with a smile. "Thank you, brother," Aurora exclaimed with a sweet voice. Meanwhile, the Gray siblings were having an enjoyable breakfast. Elsewhere in the country some people were having nightmares even after waking up. Sakura City, Sakura Abode country. The autumn weather made the capital of the country look like a magical city. The sun shined weaker as the winter got close. The wind ruffled the citizens who walked in the streets. And the scenery made just of why the capital had the name of Sakura City. Different from Elfire City, where it was only possible to see brilliant red sakura trees, Sakura City was full of trees of all colors and types. The city had so many types of sakura trees inside its perimeters, that the aerial image of the city was that of a giant rainbow city. That's why Sakura City had the nickname Rainbow City. Tourists from all around the world visited the city at this time of the year to see the place that formed a rainbow with its trees. Each neighborhood of the city had its characteristic sakura trees. Some had green, some had violet, some had brown, and many other colors. But one special place of the city was where white and black sakura trees made a magical scene. It seemed like the light and dark elves were dancing on the trees as the autumn wind blew the trees. A country that had such beautiful scenery in its autumn also had a great tradition related to it. O.org. The whole country celebrated autumn in the last week of October. The whole week was dedicated to celebrating the season of fallen leaves. Street festivals happened all around the country. There was delicious street food, games, contests, and fireworks. This was the week before the festival started and it could be seen the whole country was getting ready to celebrate. Including the capital of the country. Sakura City had several festivals happening in Autumn Week, but the most famous one was the Rainbow Festival, where all the decorations and food had rainbows. It was in this mood that the city woke up for a new day that Wednesday. But an online newspaper promised to disrupt the festive mood of some people, more specifically of a whole publishing company. Dave Brown was the CEO of the Fury Jump publishing house. He was the son of the owner and got the job with his father's help. Even though he was not the best at the job, he could do it without any problems as he had helped to do it. But lately, the company was going through tough times, firstly the exclusive contract scandal, then the lack of good works to publish even after cheating mangakas. But now their problem was even bigger. Yesterday he got to know that one of his employees committed several crimes while representing the company. His only relief was that it all happened in another city, away from the capital's media. Dave arrived at his office early in the morning, he was already a middle-aged man, so even though he was not the best CEO, he liked having a routine. He started working, but after working for around 2 hours, he heard his door opening abruptly. He lifted his head and saw his secretary entering his office with an alarmed face. He frowned as he saw that, he was a strict boss that liked everything to be his way. So, seeing that did not make him happy. "Boss, you have to see this. I sent you into your browser," the secretary said with a trembling voice. Dave looked at the message and opened it. He wanted to see what made his secretary lose decorum. He saw it opened the website of the Daily Sakura Journal. He looked at the article and paled instantly. The article said, "Company tries to murder." The Fury Jump Publishing House is a company from Sakura City that works in the manga industry. The company was involved in the deception of authors. They tricked mangakas to sign contracts of exclusivity with the company. Although the practice is not against the law, it's frowned upon in the mangaka community. After it was known how the company tricked the mangakas, the Daily Sakura Journal came to know that Fury Jump did not sign with any authors after the scandal. But, this company reached a new low lately. Peter Green, an editor-manager of the Fury Jump, went to Elfire City, last week, intending to poach a new promising mangaka that was becoming famous. But it seemed that he thought he was above the law. He committed a series of crimes that ended with a cowardly attack on an innocent. The Daily Sakura Journal was able to get copies of evidence that the Elfire City Police Department is holding against Peter and the Fury Jump. Peter, while representing his company, tried to probe company secrets from the publishing house that promising mangaka works for. It is possible to see in the image below the description of calls. Image, it is evident in the image that Peter committed corporation espionage. If that was not enough, Peter committed even more crimes. The Daily Sakura was able to know that Peter got a meeting in the opponent company, last Thursday, October 15th. There he threatened the company to release the identity of the mangaka. After getting to know the mangaka, he threatened him to sign into his company. The journal got to know that the mangaka refused. It was then that it seemed that Peter lost his sense of the law. The ECPD, Elfire City Police Department, found out that Peter contacted 3 members of a local gang intending to hire them to threaten the mangaka on the same day Peter was refused. The Sakura Journal was able to get the evidence where it is proved that Peter contacted these men. The next day, October 16th, these men attacked the mangaka with guns and almost killed the mangaka. Fortunately, the police were able to get to the scene before anything happened. Peter was arrested at his apartment on October 18th. He is being charged with the crimes of corporation espionage, making threat to kill, and attempt murder. While the Fury Jump Publishing House is being charged with the crime of corporation espionage. ECPD is working on the case to bring justice to the victims. After this article, it is possible to see more evidence of the crimes. Dave read the whole article with a heavy heart. He knew that the Fury Jump was over. But he could not understand how the news leaked. And to the biggest newspaper in the city, nonetheless. This news would be known all around the country today, and every partner they had would abandon them. Every potential mangaka in the market would avoid contacting the Fury Jump. Every mangas that they published would flop when they reached the shelves. Dave was able to see all that after he finished reading the news article. He gritted his teeth in anger. He was furious with Peter and what he brought to the company with his silly actions. "Call all the shareholders," Dave said in a rude voice to his secretary. The secretary nodded and left the room. Dave was feeling helpless. He could not do anything. The police and the media were already in his tail. The Fury Jump had the start of what was the ending of their long history. Chapter 76 Theo and the Girls Hang Out. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Flowprime Cinema Theater, Elfire City. Theo arrived at the place early. He did not have to cook and worry about cooking today. He was relaxing as he waited for the girls to arrive. But even though he was quiet at the side, his presence was able to attract the attention of all the people who passed by. Theo looked like a movie actor, and everyone who saw him thought the same thing. Is that an actor? A teenage girl asked her friends as they passed by Theo. They all giggled and started talking about Theo. Theo noticed that he was attracting attention from the passerby, but he did not care. Today he was dressed in gray pants from Louis Vuitton, a black T-shirt from Prada, and a silver jacket with black details from Dior. He seemed like someone from a rich family. "Hey, handsome." Theo heard a familiar woman's voice saying when he was looking at his cell phone. He lifted his head and saw two amazing beautiful girls looking at him. But one of them was extra beautiful, she looked like a fairy goddess. Aia was dressed in a pink sweater, black short skirt, and black boots. She looked so stunning that Theo was momentarily blown away. Her clothes plus her devastating face, hair, and eyes made her the most beautiful girl there. She looked so beautiful that the attention that was already in Theo now was even bigger. Guys ogled her from afar. Meanwhile, Shizuka was super pretty too. She was wearing black pants with black boots, a white shirt, and a gray trench coat. All the clothes from these two girls seemed super expensive. They were dressed to impress today. At least it was what wanted to do with a certain someone. "Hey, girls, you two look absolutely stunning," Theo said with a smile after he managed to come back from his reverie. "Thank you," both of them said with a smile. But if someone looked closely, it could be seen that Aia was blushing. They talked as they waited for the rest of the gang. After a while, they saw Sayuri, Sam, and June arriving at the same time. "Hey, girls, you look good today." Theo complimented the girls too. And indeed they looked stunning. Theo noticed that he was the only man between these high number of stunning women. He felt a little weird, it was not like he deliberately chose to hang out with girls. But as he met them, he created bonds with each one of them. Each one of them was important to his life, and he would treat them with respect. And the girls felt that way too. With exception of Aia and Shizuka, Theo met the other three when they were in the lower place in their lives. But Theo believed in them and gave them a chance to shine with their efforts. He treated them respectfully and never behaved inappropriately. Even though sometimes when looking at his beyond handsome appearance, they wanted him to do something. But it was only a silly thought. They were talking about the movie as they waited for Aurora. "Where's little sister?" Aia asked as she looked around. "She has school so she will arrive later," Theo said. "Talking about the devil. I think she arrived with her friends." Theo smiled as he pointed in the direction where 5 different girls were coming. Aurora brought Vivian, Kerala, Umaru, and Megan. The first 3 she invited because they were her best friends. She invited Megan because she helped her so much after she transferred to Yukiheim High School. So, she wanted to go out with her senior. The girls, when they heard Aurora asking if they wanted to go to the cinema, agreed on the spot. They were young and it was the first time they went out with Aurora. While Megan agreed on the spot too after she heard that Theo also was going. They all went to Kerala's house after school to get ready, they wanted to go in pretty clothes and not the school's uniform. "Hey, brother!" Aurora exclaimed when she arrived near him. "Hey, Cupcake," Theo smiled. "Hey, big sisters," Aurora greeted her big sisters. They all smiled at her and greeted her back. "These are my friends. You may remember them from my birthday party," Aurora said as she pointed to her friends. "Sure, we remember." Sam smiled. "How are you doing, girls?" Aia smiled at the girls. They were a little nervous about going out with adults, but after being well received they stopped worrying too much. They all talked for a while until Theo said, "Let's go. The movie will start in 30 minutes. Where are our seats?" Sayuri asked. "I reserved the VIP room. So, we will have no problem with the seats. We also can order popcorn and other stuff from there," Theo replied. "That's great. Aiya exclaimed as she jumped around. They all were satisfied with Theo's decision. They were super pretty girls, and if they were seated between the crowd, they would attract too much attention. Theo showed the cinema's employee his pass to the VIP room, and he guided them towards the room. As they walked, they attracted attention from all the people inside the cinema. And it was justified. 10 super beautiful girls with different appearances but equally amazing. And one god-like handsome man accompanying them. Together, they looked like the cast of a movie that was visiting the cinema to watch a movie. They arrived at the VIP room and heaved a sigh of relief. They did not like the attention they received. But they understood why. They were all beautiful, and that was attention-grabbing. They looked around the room and noticed it was comfy. There were comfy couches, leg supporters, a bathroom by the back, and an ample view of the screen. That's perfect. Aiya exclaimed as she threw herself into one of the couches. They all laughed and sat by the couches too. I'm going to order something, Theo said as he took the menu that was by the side of the couches. Me too. Sam said in excitement. Cupcake, you can ask for whatever you want. Theo said to Aurora with a smile. Thank you, big brother. Aurora smiled sweetly. They all ordered and waited for the movie to start. The orders arrived just before the screen lit up. They were watching a movie called Who? The movie was a production from a Sakura Abode studio. And it became the box office champion as soon as it was released. It told the story of a town surrounded by mystery. Someone is killed and no one knows who was the killer. The movie followed a detective arriving in the town to solve the crime. All of them were enticed by the movie. The movie was so good that they did even have remembered to comment on it. Be nov calm when the last scene came and it was revealed who the killer was, all of them gasped in surprise. They did not expect the killer was the one that they practically had 100% of sure that was not the killer. The movie ended and they started talking with enthusiasm about the movie. Wow, that was awesome. Aiya exclaimed. Yeah, I did not expect him to be the killer. Sam said with an excited voice. No, and when that guy started. They all started to comment on specific parts of the movie until they noticed that the credits of the movie ended. We should go. Theo said. They all stood up and went away. How about we go eat some ice cream? Theo asked and they arrived outside the theater. They all agreed with enthusiasm, they did not want the night to end there already. Chapter 77 Festivals. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Theo and the girls arrived in an ice cream shop that was near the theater. The theater was in a commercial street where all types of shops could be seen. They arrived in the ice cream shop and ordered their ice creams. What are you guys going to do next week, in the autumn festival? Sayuri asked as she ate her sundae. My school is preparing a festival, you guys can come to see it, Aurora said with a smile. Vivian, Megan, Umaru, and Kerala agreed with that. The Yukiheim High School was going to throw a super festival to celebrate the autumn. They had a traditional festival that was famous in the city. Aurora and her friends spent the last weeks preparing and rehearsing for what they would do. Aurora's classroom would be doing a manga cafe. Aurora asked Theo if she could dress as Kakashi from Naruto. It was her favorite character in the manga. Theo helped her make her costume for the festival. Yes. I would love to. Aiya said with enthusiasm. All of them smiled and promised to visit Aurora's festival. But we have to go to the Flame Festival. Aiya said suddenly. All of them became excited about it. The Flame Festival was the most famous celebration of autumn in Elffire City. It happened in the northern part of the city where there was a park next to the Pedroruna forest. The Pedroruna forest was painted by flame sakura at this time of the year, so it was the perfect place to do the Flame Festival. The Flame Festival lasted for 7 days. There were all types of attractions on the 7 days of the festivals. But the most characteristic thing was the flame decorations all around the festival location, and all around the city too. The festival was the longest tradition in the city, tracing back to the time before the Yamato clan and Pendragon clan made the truce treaty. It was said that the villages around the flame sakuras used to gather and celebrate autumn every year. And the tradition lasted until the current time, and it became an even bigger celebration. Every year the whole city visited the festival. Most of the 5 million citizens went to the park next to the Pedroruna forest to celebrate. Even Theo's restaurant would be open for only 2 hours every day. And during the celebration week, Theo would introduce dishes in the theme. "How about we go there on Monday?" June said. "Yeah, the restaurant will be closed that day and we can enjoy without worrying too much," Theo said as he agreed with her. "I agree with it too." "Right, Shizu-chan?" Aiya asked with worrying eyes. "Sure," Shizuka said after a while. The truth was that Aiya and Shizuka had to travel at the end of the autumn week to Sakura City to their family celebration. All members of the family needed to be present at the occasion. Shizuka only agreed because they would go to the Flame Festival on Monday. The two of them had to go to Sakura City Thursday. They even already asked Theo for a leave from the restaurant for a few days. Obviously, Theo agreed. He understood that the girls came from an important family, and with it, some family traditions had to be respected. "So, it's decided. We will visit the girls' school festival. And Monday we will go to the Flame Festival," Sam said with an excited voice. They all agreed with enthusiasm. They enjoyed each other's company. "Are you girls going with the traditional costume?" June asked afterward. "Of course. It's going to be fun," Sayuri said with shining eyes. "I agree with Sayuri," Aiya exclaimed. I don't know," June said with hesitation. "Come on, June," Sam said with pleading eyes. They all looked at her with pleading eyes. Even Vivian and the girls. "Okay," June said with a defeated voice. "Yay!" Aiya exclaimed. They started talking about the festival. The traditional food, the clothes, the decorations, the attractions. "I love the flame decorations they put in the festival," Sam said. "Yeah, me too. It's my favorite part of it," June said with enthusiasm. "We should take tons of pictures of it and with it," Sayuri said with a smile. "Hell yeah!" Aiya exclaimed. They continued to talk and they did not even notice that hours passed and it was already late. "We should go. Aurora has classes tomorrow," Theo said suddenly. "Oh goodness. It is already super late," June said as she looked at the clock. "Yeah, we should go. We have to work tomorrow morning," Sam agreed. They came outside and 3 luxurious black cars were waiting on the street. "That's us," Vivian said. "Thank you for inviting us," Megan said with a grateful tone. Kerala, Vivian, and Amaru also thanked them. All of them enjoyed hanging out with Theo and the girls. It was so different than they were used to. "It was our pleasure, girls," Aiya said with a smile. The rest of them agreed with Aiya as they said goodbye to the girls. Then they proceeded to head towards their cars. They bade goodbye to each other and went back to their homes with a warm heart. They could feel that their friendship was solid and that they enjoyed each other's company. The next day arrived and Theo kept his usual routine. He just arrived in his office to continue to project his house. When he received a message from Aiya. He opened it and it was the news article from the Daily Sakura Journal. Theo opened and read it. The more he read, the more he was surprised. He did not expect that Aiya had connections with the Daily Sakura Journal. It was important to notice that this journal was not only famous in the capital of the country but also all around the nation. The online version of the journal had millions of followers all around the country. And to Aia have connections to be able to release the article in this journal. Theo became surprised yet again. What Theo didn't know was that Aia's family was the owner of the journal. So, she could order them to make an article about anything she wanted. Theo was happy with the visibility of the case. He was sure that now the Fury Jump would be destroyed by the public. He was even happier that his name was not mentioned in the article. He did not want his name to be associated with the case, even if he was the victim. Theo replied to Aia with thankful text. He appreciated all her help in this case. They texted each other for a while, and afterward, Theo started to work on his house project again. He was halfway done with the project. BVEC after he was able to level up his engineer proficiencies, he came to know that some machines he was planning to put in the house had to be redesigned from the scratch. Or it wouldn't be able to work. Even the power grid, Theo had to redesign and increase the capacity. Because his house would have to have a constant supply of energy and he wanted to install solar panels to power up the house. But to design a power grid that needs so much energy from solar panels had to be done with extreme care. Even the design of the house itself had to be reviewed. Because after he leveled up his architect skill, he saw that the previous design he envisioned was flawed. But Theo was able to pass through all these difficulties in the last 5 days. Theo estimated that he would finish the project in the time frame he expected, in other words in another 5 days the project would be done. Theo was looking forward to seeing his dream house becoming true. Chapter 78 Aurora's Classroom. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bonus chapter, Friday, October 23. Aurora woke up at the same time she woke every day to go to school. She slowly opened her sleepy eyes as her hand moved towards her phone to turn down the alarm. She saw the time on her phone. 7:01 a.m., I should get up. She thought groggily as she slowly got out of bed. She went towards her bathroom with her eyelids only open sufficiently to her not walk into the wall. She stopped at the sink and opened the tap. Aurora splashed some water on her face to wake herself up. She took her toothbrush and started brushing her teeth. After, she took her pajamas off and got into the shower. She showered for a while and left the bathroom 5 minutes later with a towel around her slim body. Aurora dressed in her uniform and applied some light makeup on her face. With her silver hair tied and her preparation was done. The girl already could smell the breakfast that her brother was making. Arriving at the kitchen of the apartment, she saw her brother putting on the table her favorite breakfast. Fried salty bananas with cheese bread. And to drink a coffee with milk. Since her brother started doing that, she became obsessed with this breakfast. Good morning, Cupcake. Theo greeted her with a gentle smile. Good morning, big brother. Aurora gave him her sweetest smile. How did you sleep? Theo asked as he sipped his coffee. Great. Aurora managed to say between her frantic eating. Slow down, do you have to be there early? Theo asked as he saw her eating so fast. Yeah. We are finishing the preparations for the festival. Aurora replied. Ah brother, don't forget my costume, please. Aurora said with teary eyes. Of course not. Theo said with fake anger, but afterward, he smiled. He indeed had to order the costume directly from a seamstress, because Kakashi was not a famous character, yet. Aurora was relieved that her brother was going to take care of that. She finished her breakfast and went to brush her teeth again. Big brother, I'm going. Bye. Aurora said with a shout as she exited the apartment. Bye. Be careful. Aurora was able to hear her brother shout over her back. She entered the car that was waiting for her on her street. Morning, Michelle, Aurora greeted her driver. Morning, little Aurora. Michelle smiled at the silver-haired girl. They talked during the entire trip towards Aurora's school about the next week's festival. Aurora invited Michelle to attend her festival. During these months that Michelle drove Aurora to the school, they became closer to each other. Aurora considered the middle-aged lady as a friend. Aurora said goodbye to Michelle when they arrived at Yucahime High School. Aurora walked towards her classroom as she looked at the decorations that were being placed for the festival. The school was a full on board with preparations for the festival. All the classrooms of all years were anxious with preparations. Aurora arrived at the first year's building and saw countless students walking to and from with preparations. And yes, the Yucahime High School was so big that it had a whole building of 5 floors just for the first-year classes. And all years had similar huge buildings. There were buildings just for laboratories. Buildings just for the school staff. A library building. A huge arena that served as a football field or for the athletics club. English football, not the North American version, and other buildings. The whole campus was gigantic. Aurora entered the building and arrived at her classroom. We should have decided ages ago. Aurora heard someone shout as she entered the room. She went towards her table and sat. You missed the show. Umaru said to Aurora with a giggle. You were the ones arriving too early. Aurora replied with another giggle. What's happening? She asked the girls as she observed her classmates discussing. They cannot decide what to serve and how food is going to be made. Kerala said while shaking her head. They are a bunch of fools. Vivian said with a sneer. The girls talked as the class had an intense discussion. They did not care much what the class would serve, they only wanted to enjoy the festival. The Yucahime High Festival was going to happen next Tuesday and Wednesday. But they were more excited about going to the Flame Festival with Theo and the girls. We should buy clothes for the Flame Festival this weekend. Umaru said suddenly with excitement. Yes. We should. Kerala agreed with shining eyes. I'm in, Vivian smiled. They looked at Aurora and waited for her answer. Why not? Aurora smiled too. By now she already discovered that her friends came from powerful and rich families, but she did not care much about it. She treated them the same as always. She even discovered from her brother talking that her big sister Aiya was from a super family from the capital of the country. She was a little surprised when she heard that. Aiya did not look like the heir of a super family. But she assumed that Aiya was a special person. A unique person that should be cherished by her unique personality. They talked about what to buy when they heard someone calling them. Hey, girls, what do you think about it? A male's voice said to them. The girls turned their heads and saw that it was the class president that said that. What? Vivian said elegantly. All students laughed hard, they could see that the girls were not paying any attention to the discussion. The class president blushed as he heard the laughs. His name was Fred Hunter, he was an intelligent boy that got the position of class president because no one else wanted. But even though it was because of that, he was still liked by his classmates. He was a little shy but he constantly fought with his shyness. He would admit to anyone else, but he only wanted the class president position to impress his dream girl. He was deeply in love with Kerala Wembley. But it was a missed shot, she did not even look at him after he won the election. I said if you guys have any solution. Fred asked with an embarrassed smile. Vivian was a little annoyed that these guys were fighting just 4 days before the festival. They should have already decided on that. I will pass the contact of a cook. He will cook for us. And what we will serve isn't obvious. We should sell famous anime food. Vivian said with a cold voice as she rolled her eyes annoyed. The girls and boys in the class were silent after they heard Vivian's annoyed voice. They were a little embarrassed that they had delayed so much the schedule and Vivian solved everything with just a few words. That's great. Let's select a few famous anime food and vote which one we will serve. Fred managed to say after a while. He regretted not coming with this solution himself. He also came from a big family but he missed his opportunity to impress Kerala. They voted and selected the dishes just before their homeroom teacher arrived. "How are the preparations for the festival?" she asked as she placed her things on her desk. "Teacher, everything is okay. We will be able to impress you," Fred said, as if the whole class was not in chaos because they could not decide which dishes they would serve just a few minutes ago. The students were a little impressed by Fred's shamelessness. Fred, who wanted to impress Kerala, was only able to impress her by his negative characteristics. The day passed and Aurora paid attention to the classes. Yukiheim's standards were higher than a normal high school. So, she had to pay extra attention to every class. The end of the day arrived and Aurora left the school and went towards her brother's restaurant. The front of the restaurant was full of people as always when she arrived. She bade farewell to Michelle and exited the car. "Hey, Aurora," Sarah said to the silver-haired girl when she entered the restaurant. "Hey, Sarah," Aurora replied with a smile. All the employees liked her and she liked them too. She went towards the back and entered the kitchen and saw her brother. He lifted his head and smiled at her. "Hey, Cupcake," Theo said with a loving voice. She loved her life. She had great friends, a loving brother, and a place where she loved to work. Chapter 79 Autumn Special Dish. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bonus Chapter, Sunday, October 25, one day before the start of the Flame Festival. Theo and the kitchen staff were in the kitchen discussing what special dishes they would cook for the autumn week. "How about we adapt the red menu to have an even more brilliant red color?" Shoko said with a thoughtful face. "We can use local autumn ingredients and produce a red menu. Elfire autumn version," Aiya said. "But which ingredients are we going to change?" Kimiko asked. "We could use the leaves from some vegetables that grow here in the city that is similar to the flame leaves from the sakura trees," Theo said after a while. And the lasagna? It is already red. How can we make it even brighter?" Lauren asked hesitantly. They were silent for a while as they thought about an answer. "I got it!" Theo suddenly exclaimed with excited eyes. "How about we make a ravioli lasagna?" Theo told them his idea. "A ravioli lasagna? How would that work?" Shizuka asked, puzzled. "That's the catch. We will fill the ravioli with the things that go inside the lasagna. We make the whole preparation as a normal lasagna. Just changing that we will make tiny lasagnas inside the ravioli, and bake the ravioli with the lasagna sauce in the oven," Theo explained. They were all impressed with Theo's idea, and a little intimidated too. The difficulty of the ravioli lasagna seemed to be much harder than the normal lasagna. "We can assemble the ravioli as the flame leaves. It will be the perfect autumn dish," Theo said with a determined tone of voice. "But, chef, isn't the difficulty of it much harder?" Max asked with hesitation. Theo heard his question and frowned. Max was right, it would be difficult for them to finish the dish on time. And Aiya and Shizuka were leaving them for a while next Thursday, so their difficulty would increase after they left. There is no other option then. We will not put in the service the vegetarian and ocean menu this week. We will serve only the red autumn menu. Theo came with an answer. The rest of them digested Theo's words. It seemed that was the only solution. They would be able to make the ravioli lasagna and take care of the workload of the service, even after Aiya and Shizuka left. "Yeah. I agree. That seems to be the only solution, chef," Kimiko said. "Shoko and Max will be responsible for the presentation. I want to see the flame sakura trees on the plate. Do you understand?" Theo gave the two of them a task. Shoko and Max had their hearts constricted for a while. It was the first time they were responsible for such an important plate presentation in the restaurant. All the normal plates there were in the service had Theo and Aiya's presentation. Shoko and Max only helped them finish. But now they would not have Theo or Aiya's help to do it. And it was such an important dish. Even though they were a little intimidated, they were even more excited about it. They loved cooking, and having such a big task was a challenge they received with pleasure. All of you know that Aiya and Shizuka will travel for a while. So, Kimiko, you will be my second chef meanwhile Aiya is away. Lauren, you will take care of Kimiko's workload. Gwen and Kin, you two will have to give your all. Theo relocated their positions in the kitchen when Aiya and Shizuka were away. Kimiko failed to breathe when she heard that she would be the second chef. That was a huge responsibility. She was afraid and at the same time excited with the opportunity. She saw how amazing Theo and Aiya were when cooking. Kimiko knew she wasn't on their level yet, but she was pursuing their level with all her heart. So, she valued the opportunity. She wanted to improve and be a better cook. Theo was satisfied as he looked at his employees. He knew that he was giving them difficult tasks, but after working with them for more than 1 month, he wanted to see them grow as cooks. Congratulations, guys. Aiya celebrated with them excitedly. She was truly happy that her friends earned such opportunities. Thank you, chef. They all thanked Theo with smiles. Sure, you earned it. Theo smiled at them. How about we practice this dish together? The service is only later anyways. Theo asked them as he looked at the clock. It was still 1 p.m. on a Sunday, and they only had to start the preparations for the night service at 4 p.m. Yes, that's a great idea. Aiya said with enthusiasm. I have an idea. Shizuka suddenly said. Tell us, Shizu-chan, Aiya said with curious eyes. We should all cook a ravioli lasagna. And afterward, we can compare to the others' versions of the dish. We can see multiple possibilities for the dish. Shizuka said with her usual serious voice. Their eyes lit up as they heard that, their fighting spirit was ignited. That's an awesome idea, Shizu-chan. Aiya exclaimed as she jumped around in excitement. Yeah. I agree. Let's do it. Theo smiled with enthusiasm. They all nodded and proceeded to take the ingredients to start cooking. Theo, Aiya, and Shizuka were not even nervous about it. Theo and Aiya were especially confident about their cooking and they were not afraid of compassions. Shizuka was just going with the flow. But to the rest of them, this was a chance to impress their bosses. Kimiko wanted to cook a tasty dish. Max and Shoko wanted to present a beautiful dish. Lauren was hoping to impress the chef. And Gwen and Kin were just hoping to cook something good. They knew they were new in the kitchen and were not as good as everyone else. But they wanted to improve. And that was the first step towards greatness. The competition started in the kitchen. It was a relief that the kitchen was enormous and it was possible to house 9 people cooking different dishes at the same time. All types of dishes could be seen being made. And when the agreed time to cook ended, 9 different dishes could be seen on the table. They all had the same principle, ravioli lasagna, but the way it was made was different from each one of them. Let's taste. Theo smiled and started tasting his employees' dishes. He was pleasantly surprised when he tasted them. They all tasted the dishes and enjoyed it. After all the dishes were tasted, they sat down to discuss. Well, it is not a surprise that Theo and Aiya's dishes were the best of them. Shoko said with a laugh. All of them laughed, it was indeed not a surprise. Theo and Aiya's dishes were in a completely different level of execution. But I liked how Max and Shoko presented their dishes. It was close to what I was expecting. I think if you work together, you two will do a great job. Theo smiled. Max and Shoko were a little proud as they heard their boss complimenting them. I liked what Kimiko and Lauren did with their dishes. Kimiko, you placed something in the dish that made it taste so delicious. It was that exotic pepper that we received recently, wasn't it? Aia said with a smile of appreciation. Yes, chef. Kimiko was happy that her dish was good. And Lauren. Such a perfect technique. If you were a little bolder with the ingredients you could get a dish close to mine and Theo's, Aia completed with a playful smile. They all took a deep breath when they heard that. That was a big statement. Lauren was a little awed when she heard that. I do my best to be bolder, chef. Lauren said after a while with determination. I agree with everything that Aia said, but my biggest surprise was you, Gwen, Kin. Theo exclaimed. You two did not produce the best dishes, but the way you assembled the ravioli was a masterpiece and gave me multiple inspirations. Theo complimented them. Gwen and Kin were a little emotional when they heard the chef complimenting their dishes. It was a first for them. Aia and Theo did not comment on Shizuka's dish because it was indeed better than the rest of them, with exception of Aia and Theo. They spent the rest of the afternoon talking about how to make the dish as they compared it to the dishes they just made. Chapter 80 Flame Festival. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bonus chapter, Monday, October 26. This was the first day of the autumn week throughout the whole Sakura abode country. Each city of the country celebrated its traditions, but all of them had the same celebration. The autumn painted the country with its sakura trees. Elfire City was not different, the whole city was excited about the Flame Festival. Today was the first day of the festival. The citizens left their homes to go to work dressed in red clothes to celebrate the festival. The mood was festive as the city was painted by flames with the sakura trees, the weather was fresh and windy with the sun coming out to make the day even more festive. Decorations could be seen in all of the city. Houses, grocery stores, malls, and many others were in the mood for the Flame Festival. Theo arrived in his office on that day greeting his employees. During the whole week, all his employees would have the workload halved, so that they could enjoy the festival. Theo had to wake up extra early today because Aurora had to go to her school earlier, and because he had to cook for her. He had to wake up early too. This was the last day before her festival and Aurora's class was running against the time to finish their preparations. Theo worked on his house project until 3 p.m. Afterward, he went home to get ready to go out. Today he would go to the Flame Festival with the girls. He was dressed in his red pants and red traditional jacket with sakura images on it. He looked stunning and handsome. His silver hair and silver eyes contrasted with the red traditional clothes and made him even more handsome. Theo exited his apartment and went towards the festival alone. Aurora was getting ready at her friend's house, and she was going to the festival from there. The closer he got to the festival, the more cars there were in the streets. All the accesses to the venue had heavy traffic. Theo saw that it would take ages for him to get his car parked at the venue. So, he decided to park the car a little far from the festival and walk to the venue. Theo walked towards the festival leisurely. He saw tons of people heading to the festival. It was expected that at least 1 million people would go to the opening of the festival today. He saw families, couples, groups of friends all dressed in traditional red clothes. Theo arrived at the venue and looked at the place. He was frozen for a second as he looked at the scenery. Flame red trees could be seen all around, lights were placed on the trees to make the red even more evident. And the result was that it made the trees look magical. Red decorations were seen all around on the stalls. A huge variety of food was being sold out for the hundreds of stalls in the venue. There was a huge stage at the back where artists were performing. And a huge crowd was enjoying all the attractions available. Theo waited for the girls at the place they combined. Then suddenly he received a call from Aia. Where are you? Aia said with a shout on the phone. I am by the south entrance. Next to the game section. Theo shouted back as he tried to listen to the phone with the noise that was coming from the festival. We will be there in 5 minutes. Aia shouted back and hang up the phone. Theo did not understand what she said, but he assumed that they were arriving. After 5 minutes, 5 unbelievable pretty girls arrived next to Theo. Aiya, June, Sayuri, Sam, and Shizuka were dressed in traditional red dresses. And they were so beautiful. Wherever they went, people would look back at them. Theo looked at them and he was a little dazed for a while. Girls. Here. Theo waved at them when he came back to himself. The girls saw him and walked to him. You all look absolutely stunning. Theo smiled at the girls. They all blushed a little. Theo was extra handsome today and they became a little bashful with his compliment. You are not bad yourself. Sayuri said after a while with a smile. She was the oldest one of them, she would not stay bashful for so long. Where's Aurora and the girls? Aiya asked as she looked around. She texted saying that they were arriving shortly. Theo said. They talked about their clothes as they waited for the Aurora. After 5 minutes, 5 young girls arrived at the Flame Festival. If the Aiya and 4 others passed a mature and unapproachable feeling, these 5 girls passed a youthful and innocent feeling. Not that Aiya and the others were not youthful, but they looked like adults. Aurora and the girls looked like teenagers. Theo saw Aurora and called her. Aurora. Here. He shouted. Aurora and the girls saw Theo and walked to him. Theo looked at Aurora and smiled. You look amazing, sis, Theo said dotingly. Thank you, big brother. Aiya said with an excited smile. She was indeed stunning, just like Theo, her silver hair contrasted with her red dress and made her look extra pretty. You 2 girls, Aiya complimented the rest of the girls. Yeah, I agree. Theo looked at the rest of the girls. They all talked about each other's clothes with excitement for a while. Where are we going first? Sam asked after a while. I want to eat something. Aiya exclaimed. Yeah, I am hungry too. Aurora said with a grump. All of them did not eat well at lunch because they were getting ready for the festival. If someone does not live together with women, it's important to say that most women take ages to get ready. So, it was understandable that they were hungry. How about we go to the food stall? We can order all types of food and eat by the trees there. Theo pointed in the direction of an open place surrounded by sakura trees where several benches were placed. People could be seen eating on the benches and enjoying the scenery. They all agreed with the idea, it sounded great. They could eat and enjoy the festival. How about we buy everything and share it with each other? Shizuka said. Yeah, I agree. Theo replied. So, you all buy anything you want, and let's meet at the benches, okay? Theo asked the girls. They all nodded with avid faces. They all laughed and went to buy the food. After 10 minutes, they all came while carrying all types of food. Theo brought a traditional Yamato food, takoyaki. Aiya arrived with a bunch of yakimo, a type of sweet potatoes baked with wood fire, and yaki tamarokoshi, char-grilled whole cobs of corn brushed with a glaze of soy sauce, mirin, and butter. They were super hot, it seemed that they were just out of the oven. Shizuka brought so sweet cakes. Aurora and her friends brought a bunch of open sfiha, an Arabian food, of all types of flavors. Sayuri, Sam, and June got together and brought crepes and green tea. When they distributed all these on the table, they were a little overwhelmed. Are we going to be able to finish? June asked. Of course, let's dive in. Aiya exclaimed with her characteristic enthusiasm. They all were lively again and started eating. And it was delicious. They laughed and ate as the sun was setting. Wow! Aiya suddenly exclaimed loudly after they were seated eating. They all looked at what she was looking for and they were awestruck when they saw it too. The sunset made the flame sakura trees be lit on fire. It seemed that the whole festival was involved by the firelight. It was magical. After a while, they started talking excitedly about the scenery. Let's take pictures. Aia exclaimed loudly. Yes. The girls replied. The girls wanted to take pictures to remember this day later. They took a bunch of pictures of the sunset, of each other, of them with the sunset. It was so many that Theo did not know how many cell phones he posed for a photo anymore.